This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.
Hello and welcome everyone to our 150th session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to James Rox from Rox Investments in Florianópolis, Brazil. James is a seasoned real estate agent specializing as assisting international individuals and investment groups in sourcing exceptional properties in Santa Catarina. His expertise extends far beyond real estate. He's also deeply involved in mediating agricultural commodities, facilitating investments, and the thriving Brazilian agricultural sector. James, I'm pumped to have you on the show. I love Floripa. I was there around almost 20 years ago. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so as you're aware, I'm James Rox, 42 years old now, or 42 years young. So I've been living in Florianópolis for 9.5 years, originally from the UK, came to Brazil first time round in 2003, lived in Brazil first time round 2005, married a Brazilian, went back to the UK, but always with the intention of moving back to Brazil and Brazil being a permanent home. What brought me to Brazil was missionary work. I was a Church of England minister in the UK, a pastor. So 9.5 years ago when we came to start a church, which led for the best part of 6-7 years, and then stepped back from that. And then was exploring business opportunities, and real estate seemed to make a lot of sense. We have a thriving real estate market in the south of Brazil. It doesn't have the international exposure yet that it deserves, but it's gaining a lot of traction now, particularly because of the residency program, the Golden Visa program. And soon after entering into real estate here, started seeing the potential for marketing here internationally, trying to bring more international attention and focusing on that niche of international clients either wanting to invest or live here, set Floripa up as their either as a second home or permanent home. So I work in the island of Florianópolis, or all over Florianópolis, have many partnerships with other agencies as well, work directly with a number of developers, but I also work in-house as well in Balneário Camboriú with the largest developer in the south of Brazil, and they're currently building the world's tallest residential building as well.
Wow. To everyone who doesn't know Floripa, give us an overview. Where is it located? What makes it livable? Geographically, but also right now, the real estate market. The small area on the one hand, very compact. It's a very particular zone. So give us an overview there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Florianópolis is the capital of the second most southern state in Brazil. It's an island that has 42 beaches surrounding it. And in this part of the world, in the south of Brazil, there's some stunning beaches as well that are world-renowned. And the state in itself as well, in the Brazilian context, it's very affluent, very good infrastructure, and by far the safest state in Brazil as well. Brazil is a huge country of continental proportions, and I always say to people, there are many Brazils in Brazil, and often people can know about some of the maybe sort of more negative news in Brazil, violence in places like Rio, Sao Paulo, northeast of Brazil. But the south of Brazil is, as I say, very developed, very beautiful. For Brazilians and other people from countries in South America, it has been a very popular place to relocate, and thriving tourist industry as well, and it's got a more international exposure as well. We now have the best airport in Brazil as well in terms of terminal and stuff, with more direct flights to Portugal and Panama, and soon to have direct flights to the States as well. And the real estate scene, there's a lot of money that flows into this state from all over Brazil, particularly from the agriculture sector along the coastline here, both in Florianópolis and cities such as Balneário Camboriú, which is a real hub of luxury in the state, and that's where you'll find the most expensive square meterage in all of Brazil on beachfront property. Other cities like Itapema, Portobello as well are growing lots. So these have always been hotspots for property investment for a number of reasons, some of which I've cited, and really stands out within the Brazilian context.
Perfect. Give us an overview about the real estate market at the moment in Floripa. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? How's the inventory? How's the construction? Also, square meter prices, either renting or selling, and also the market drivers right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's good liquidity in the market here, so it's in terms of a buyer's market, it's a good moment as well to get in. A very popular investment tactic, if I could use that phrase, in Brazil is buying off-plan property, because that's where a lot of the money is made in terms of buying off-plan, whether it's an apartment, house, surf that appreciation and then flip it when it's ready or close to completion. So property is going up depending on the neighborhoods. It varies over Florianópolis. So there's some neighborhoods that are probably seeing around 10% appreciation a year, and then some of the beach neighborhoods such as Ingleses that are seeing more like 20 or even a bit more than 20% a year on property. Appreciation on off-plan properties can be greater as well, particularly depending on the location. Rental, there's a lot of demand here as well because it's a popular place for people to relocate. Annual rent, there's a lot of demand has gone up. There's also been a huge influx of Russians and Ukrainians living here as well. Brazil's a very popular country for people wanting a second passport because it's not a bad passport, gives you access to Europe, easier to get a visa to the States, and easy ways to acquire a passport, and can be quite swift process as well if you have a child in Brazil or marry a Brazilian. And there's also a route through property purchase as well. But that influx of internationals as well as more nationals relocating here because of the quality of life has driven up rent prices. Typically, rent you would pay somewhere between 0.5 to 1% of the property value per month. That would be for annual rent. But also, as it's a tourist place, and we have our tourist season is the summer months here in Brazil. So mid to at the end of December, right through often until beginning of March, but often extending to Easter as well. But really at its peak, kind of at the end of December, beginning of January in terms of sheer number of people. So in terms of short-term rents, here is there's an incredible amount of demand. Last year, Florianópolis was the most sought-after destination in Brazil on Airbnb and 7th most sought-after destination in the world as well. So property prices are very high during the peak of the tourist season. It's a good way of making money, and in between annual rent and kind of Airbnb, very short-term rent. There's also monthly rents as well that tend to be set at a good price because there's a lot of digital nomads who come here as well. So there's always demand. Square meterage varies from neighborhood. So we have, I always say about Florianópolis, we have opportunities for all tastes and all budgets, really. On average, the property square meter across Florianópolis would be somewhere around 11,000, a little over 11,000 reais per square meter. So we're talking around, what's that, $2,000 per square meter. But depending on the area, you'll be looking at paying maybe for a new launch somewhere like Campeche, Nova Campeche, which is very popular. Perhaps you'll be looking at paying between 20 to 25,000 per square meter. Somewhere like Jurerê Internacional as well, which is kind of a real hub spot for the wealthy. Lots of mansions, very, just a very beautiful neighborhood, very secure. Often in South America, you see gated communities or high walls and things where there are nice properties. That's not the case in Jurerê, just open gardens. Square meter, I imagine with 35, 40,000 reais per square meter. But there are places in the state now as well. I mentioned about Balneário Camboriú. There are seafront properties there that are being launched at around 70,000 per square meter. And it's a bit under wraps about Senatao, which is the tallest residential building in the world. But if I was to quote you a square meter there, that's starting around 90,000 reais per square meter. So you can see there's a huge range along. But as I say, there are opportunities for all taste and all budgets.
Tell us about the Golden Visa. What are the requirements and how is the process?
Yeah, so the requirements is for an investment of R$1,000,000 reais in the south of Brazil on a property that has the correct paperwork, the deed, etc. You are purchasing a property like that, you are eligible for residency. So you would gain a 4-year investor visa residency, which to maintain you would need to stay you'd need to be in Brazil in each 2-year period, spend 14 days in Brazil during that time. Then that can be renewed for a permanent visa, and after an additional 4 years, you could apply for citizenship. What's the process like? It's not all that difficult. Purchasing the property, what's important is how you bring the money in, because it's an investor visa, so you have to show a trail of money leaving an account outside of Brazil in your name and coming into Brazil specifically for that purpose, or property purchase, whether the money goes direct to the developer or to the sellers. So it's important that money comes through central bank as well. And then once it normally takes around 30 days or a little more just to, once you've paid and signed everything off to get your deed. But as soon as you have your deed, you can then apply for the Golden Visa. You can either do that directly in Brazil or even outside of Brazil as well. That's possible. And as soon as you get your application in, you're free to stay. You get your what they call a protocol number. You stay, and then you're just waiting for the federal police to conclude the process, call you in for the stuff you need to do, like fingerprints and all of those things. And it's not that costly. You can use a lawyer or use a immigration consultant to help that process and guide you through. Often that can be confusing to people who don't speak Portuguese or don't know their way around the federal police and the immigration system that well. But it's definitely one of the cheaper Golden Visas around the world. So R1,000,000 reais, what's that now in terms of dollars? That's around.
Yeah, I looked it up, like 170. Yeah, 170, 180. Do you know if I can finance that?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Do you know if I can put a mortgage? Like, can I do that with a mortgage, or can I do it like financing?
No, because it's an investment visa essentially. So the money has to come in external to Brazil.
Got it.
So now you could enter into a payment plan with a developer, and once you cross that million threshold, then apply. But in terms of financing it in Brazil, in that sense, no, because it's an investment visa.
Yeah. Rocks Investments, tell us about your service offerings.
Yeah, so we help clients to get their information in order so that they can buy as well, and help them to source properties and to purchase in a manner that is secure, is transparent. Obviously, focusing more on foreign internationals. There are other things around that, like making sure they get their Brazilian tax ID, which is compulsory if you want to buy something here in Brazil, particularly property. It's not a difficult process, but it is necessary to have that. And also help clients to get money into Brazil in a way that is cost effective, secure as well. And in many cases, obviously there are language barriers. Brazil, it's an amazing country. I think it astounds people. I think sometimes if you haven't been to Brazil, you can think that Brazil is very underdeveloped. It's not the case, actually. It's a very developed country in many ways. However, English proficiency is a challenge, so language barriers can be a challenge as well. So in many ways, we're just giving a lot of step-by-step support to clients on their journey, and really trying to understand the client, what are their property needs, or what are their goals, and try and match them to the best and most appropriate opportunities for them, and facilitate that purchasing process. I think often giving consultancy as well to clients, helping them to manage expectations as well, or giving them better clarity, or even make them aware of some of the pitfalls as well. I always think helping someone buy property is a huge responsibility. It may be the biggest investment that someone ever makes in their life. So you really want to help them get it right, and help them to be sure about what they're doing as well on that process.
Perfect. Give us an overview on the buying process. How can I imagine that? Let's say I reach out to you, I find a property which interests me. What is there in the process? What is required from my side? Can I even do that remotely? And what is maybe the process, so that I have an idea of what I have to expect?
Yeah, the process is identifying a property that you like. What we can then do is put in an offer for that property, and either the developer or the owner accepting that, we would look to draw up a purchase agreement called a buy and sell contract here in Brazil. What's important is that during this process, at some point, we get the buyer a Brazilian tax ID as well, which can be done remotely, and we can help expedite that process, which isn't always a long process. So having an offer accepted, having a purchase agreement, we'll need to then get funds into Brazil if they're not into Brazil. So often I've worked with clients to set them up with a non-residence account, to register them with a currency exchange service here in Brazil that will bring the money into the country through central bank. The operation will be pre-approved, so we make sure there's the right paperwork, just so there's no holds up and things. So then on final signatures, the process often here in Brazil is that payment will be made as we sign those final contracts as well, and then we'll work on getting the deed transferred to the client at that point as well. So those things tend to happen simultaneously: final signatures, money being paid, and then we do the bureaucratic bit with the local registry office to get the deed in the client's name.
Perfect. How long can I expect the process to take if everything basically goes smoothly? Is there sometimes it is basically I have to wait for the municipality. I have to wait for some due diligence to be made. Also, maybe what are steps which you recommend to be taken care of in order not to be too hasty and to maybe take it a little bit more time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing with clients is always to make sure they're sure about what they want, and then don't find themselves rushing into something that they're then unsure about, and then perhaps want to store. So, as I say, I think initially it's a lot about listening to the client's needs or their goals. Do you want your dream house in Brazil? Great place to have your dream house. Do you want an investment that's going to give you good returns or has good liquidity? It could be resold quickly. It's all of those things. Some properties do become more complex than others. So a resale offer, we would need from the seller, just a declaration about that there are no outstanding debts on the property. What about their marital status? Are they in a process of separation, divorce? Who else has a claim to that property? So those things can raise some complexities, which require more due diligence, just carefully going over paperwork. Often, if people are buying direct from a developer, buying a new property, then that's a lot easier in a way as well. So the purchase agreement can be drawn up there and then. The developer can produce all the paperwork it needs to show to make sure there's no debt on it or no potential issues. So things, surprisingly, once you've done the due diligence or once you have everything you need to, and it can often be an idea as well to involve a lawyer in the due diligence process. I would always expect from a good real estate agency that they would have their ducks in a row in terms of knowing any potential issues with the property. But once you're satisfied with the paperwork and advance towards that payment, that purchase agreement, the process can be very quick. If we're just talking about a straight cash purchase, you can have everything ready. Sometimes, in terms of final signatures, you can have stuff ready within a couple of weeks or at least a month, and then close.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. How about your agriculture business? Give us an overview there.
Yeah, so my involvement with the agriculture business has been mediating for a company that was in Guyana, in central Brazil. So mediating with foreign investors and partners as well. The company I was working for were specialized in implementing projects on farms that were unproductive. So structuring that farm so it would become a productive operation. Often that would involve bringing in an external investor to fund those projects, that whole kind of renovation and installation of facilities on a farm. Brazil, in reality, is a giant farm. Agriculture is what really drives the economy here. 1 in 10 agricultural projects around the world are from Brazil, and Brazil operating at full capacity, if all of its farmland was fully productive, would have the capacity to feed somewhere around 20% of the world's population. So it's a huge area. It's something I've stepped back from recently, but it's I think depending on opportunities, I'd be very open to working again with agriculture.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned before Airbnb and the business there. There are many countries nowadays where Airbnb is limited, banned, and other restrictions also, especially regarding the government and taxes. What's the legal landscape there if I buy to rent? Because what I could do is I buy my property, get into the golden visa scheme, and then rent it out, have a property manager and rent it out for Airbnb. Would that be an option?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see lots of clients who want that as a goal. You know, they not only want to have a second residency and have somewhere to stay when they're in Brazil, but they want also that to serve as an investment that will at least cover costs, if not generate income for them as well. And you know, that's very possible. And a lot of the properties in Florianópolis lend themselves to that. So even before the creation of Airbnb, it was a very thriving short-term rental market. Often people would put their properties in the hands of a local real estate agency who would line it up with short-term tenants for that period. But obviously Airbnb allows you to do that yourself directly. So as I say, thriving Airbnb market here, most demand in Brazil. And I don't see that changing, or I don't see any movement to want to restrict Airbnb, because a lot of people, when they live here, they're aware that the local economy really depends on the tourist season in many ways, particularly within beach neighborhoods. So a lot of people buy with that in mind, and you'll also see things where people have permanent homes here, locals, but then move out during the high tourist season so that they can rent out their property for a short-term rental.
That makes total sense. What are other tips which you would definitely give potential investors, buyers, when they consider a property purchase? Do you have maybe also some negative experiences where you say, it is, on the one hand, it can be easy because obviously you need to make sure that you have good assistance, but then on the other hand, what do you think are the highest risks which you should definitely take care of?
Yeah, if you're buying off-plan, you need to do your due diligence on the developers. Now, saying that, I see more fear from internationals buying off-plan than is warranted. However, if you do invest in an investor that's not reputable, and they're prone to either going bankrupt or could even be, this happens rarely. I mean, this is a horror story. It's not something that I see often, but I've also seen developers set up projects in a fraudulent way where they'll sell multiple units in the same development. Usually these developments don't have the right documentation and things, are cheap and attractive prices, probably prey more on people who are more vulnerable, poorer. So we'll sell the same units multiple times to different people, maybe even start the works, start putting up the structure, and then once this outfit has acquired enough money, they'll disappear. So that's probably been one of the biggest horror stories I've seen in my 9.5 years here. So do your due diligence if you're buying off plan. How long has the developer been in the market for? Are they building with their own capital? How are they funding it? There are different types of developments. There's something called here a cooperative, where the developer will build as money comes in. The risk with that is if money doesn't come in, it can be a very slow process, even if the developer is honest, well-intentioned and things. So I would always go with a reputable developer who have a good track record and a good quality of build as well. There is a lot of transparency in Brazil, so you can research a company's tax ID number and kind of see information about them, see any complaints. But also as well, that's the importance of speaking to trusted local agents. So I think you want to find an agency that is interested in helping you as a customer, or an agent who's interested in helping you as a customer, rather than just getting a commission and then kind of disappearing after. someone else I've noticed is linguistics here as well. There are a few professionals in the area that have a really good proficiency in English as well. So a lot of things can get lost in translation. It's amazing how many people will just try and do business using Google Translator. Great tool, but a lot can get lost in those conversations and things. And there are concepts and processes perhaps within real estate transactions that maybe are not that familiar or don't converse that well with things that you would do back home as well. I've seen, for example, American clients wanting to use processes from the States here and kind of not understanding why that doesn't happen, or et cetera. And so I actually think having a professional who you can converse with in your native language or a language you're very proficient in is really important as well. And knowing as well that agent or agency is going to give you not just support during the process, but post-purchase support as well, is very important. If there are any issues with the properties or with the development afterwards, that they will still do their job of representing you in that process. And it's worth pointing something out about realtors in Brazil as well. Let's say in the States, for instance, the buyer has their agent and the seller has their agent. So you will have a dedicated buyer's agent who's there to support you. The reality is, in Brazil, a real estate agent is normally a seller's agent, because they are working with the listings they've got and they want to, they want to fit you to that. So they're not always interested in the needs necessarily. I'm generalizing here, but the needs necessarily of the buyer. I think one of the distinctives of our company is because we're focused on internationals, we act more as buyer's agents as well, trying to source things that are appropriate and stuff. And likewise as well, if we don't have a product for them directly with us in our portfolio as well, we will leverage our partnerships all over the region as well. Being willing to split commissions and that kind of thing, which actually sometimes agents aren't too keen on doing, because they want to sell you what they've got and they want the overall commission. But I think given our business model, we have to be more, in a sense, a buyer's agent than a seller's agent, even though there are instances where we'll deal with both sides as well and try and do that appropriately. Another issue I highlight as well, particularly being a foreign international here as well, is when working with an agency as well, is that they have experience of those processes for internationals as well. So they're able to help internationals acquire the right documents that they need to purchase, and also have a good network of professionals in order for them to help get sworn translations, things like that for when they get the deed. Now, buying, all you need is your Brazilian tax ID number. That's very straightforward, and the money. Post that, you'll need to get some documents translated, sworn translations into Portuguese, so that you can get the property deed. And have seen things as well where agents haven't been able to really help a client during that. The client has purchased the property, everything is fine with the property, etc. Money has been transferred, but they have yet to be able to get the deed into the client's name because they've not been able to give that assistance with the right documents and getting sworn translations, etc., in order for the client to get the deed. So the client, even though he has possession of the property, is in a state of limbo sometimes until they can get those problems resolved. So helping someone from the UK resolve some of those issues at the moment. So sometimes get drawn into mopping up mess as well that can be caused by others. And I don't think there was malintent by the agency, but perhaps there's not that know-how. And that can also apply to financial transactions as well. You can do a SWIFT direct to a developer in Brazil, or um, direct to a seller as well. But often you can be subject to heavy costs. So you can pay, a heavier amount on top of that, maybe 4 to even as much as 8% on top of that. But also as well, money can get held up in banks as well, because once you're over a certain threshold with money as well, you need to produce paperwork. The bank needs to know who you are. They need to know the source of the money, where it's coming from, and for what purpose it's coming into Brazil and going on to the recipient. So actually having agents who can help clients and sellers get all their ducks in a row, and can point them in direction of services that are going to make that financial transaction more cost effective and smooth, is really important as well.
Perfect. What do you think are the next steps in the real estate market and the trends for 2025, maybe up to 2030? How do you see the market going during the next years in Brazil and also maybe in Florida itself?
Yeah, I think it's going to become more bullish. Now, I would notice economically there was an issue when the government changed a couple of years ago. So there are places where the real estate market really slowed down. Now we do have it does seem that the coast here in Santa Catarina is immune to some of the issues that happen in the country. It's still a place that attracts a lot of investment nationally and increasingly so internationally as well. But I think there's a sort of sense now in Brazil where when the government changed, the sky didn't fall in, the world didn't end. So buyer confidence is increasing as well. Another trend a lot of economists believe is that with US interest rates being cut as well, there will be more foreign investment in Brazil in the housing markets, because Brazil is one of the best markets in the world for capital appreciation. And of course, property prices can be very accessible compared to other places in Brazil. And I'm seeing a lot more Americans exploring Brazil as an option for retirement, perhaps looking away from Mexico and other places in Central America and starting to look to South America as well. So I expect both internally in Brazil, a more bullish housing market, and that would only accelerate what's happening here in Santa Catarina, and more foreign investment as well. So the coastline, specifically in Santa Catarina, is where the best appreciation is being seen now in Brazil. I think there are now other areas like João Pessoa Northeast that's starting to become a place where people are focusing as well. But what we have here in the south is a market that has been performing really well, and is gaining increasingly more notoriety. So I think the investment here will increase, and I do believe that property prices will continue to increase, at least 10% in most places. But as you get to specific neighborhoods, specific beaches, you'll see 20%, and in some cases, some properties have performed, or some specific areas have performed as much as 30%. I don't think that's going to last forever, because that wouldn't be sustainable, but I don't think it's a bubble that's going to it's a bubble in that sense, and that it's going to burst and unravel soon, because there's still a lot of demand. And even internally in Brazil, more and more eyes are starting to look this way. Brazil's a very big country, and actually there's a lot of wealth spread around, but people look for those opportunities. So I do think there will be good appreciation. I think it's a good place to either invest for rental income, or even to think about flipping as well, whether that's buying off plan, or even a property would appreciate well, that's ready if you feel more secure doing that, which you can sell in the future as well. So I think my outlook is positive, like for the next few years.
Give us maybe one example of your portfolio of a real estate listing, which you think is right now quite interesting and you would like to present to the audience.
Yeah, I would present I work with a local developer in Ingleses in the north of the island, Florianópolis, called Agnes, who are known for good quality constructions. And they deliver some furnished units as well. They decorate them to a very high standard. So I think for an international who wants a secure investment, who wants a good quality investment, and an investment that they can both use for themselves, but also make a good profit out of. They have a number of furnished units. For example, they have one in a place called North Paradise, which is on the market now for 985,000 reais. So what's that in dollars? I'm just going to crunch the
it's
put
like
it in here just to give you an accurate.
It's again like 160, 150,000, no?
Yeah, so 985,000 dollar price. Yeah, 169,000 euros, 160, nearly 161 pounds, 134 pounds to £1,000 to round it off. Something like that, I believe, will be a property that will continue to appreciate, given its position, given its quality. Given the area it's in, Ingleses is seeing around 20% appreciation. It represents a neighborhood that's growing, that the infrastructure is improving, but also the price point is one of the most accessible in Florianópolis. So there's lots of room for growth. And as the property is furnished to a very high standard, you can immediately, rent it out as well and generate some income. So I think that's it's a good price point and offers some. It's an attractive proposition. That's the word. Proposition based on the appreciation that it would generate, but also cash that it would generate for an investor as well.
That's good. Perfect. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience? Because you gave us a very good overview about your journey, how you started, and also, from moving to Florianópolis, giving us an overview about the area itself, about the real estate market right now, the golden visa. You guide us very, very, very nicely through the buying process, also potential obstacles and limitations, and give us tips and tricks on what to look out for, especially when buying off plan. Finally, you also gave us a very good, interesting insight regarding, on the one hand, agriculture and your agriculture businesses, but also one of the listings you're presenting. Is there anything you would like to share with the audience which we haven't touched upon?
Yeah. We spoke about Florianópolis at the beginning. I think, as much as I love to sell property in the region, actually I think it's a part of the world that is stunning. So taking property out of it, it's an amazing place to live. It's beautiful. Brazil has to be one of the most hospitable countries in the world as well. And certainly for me, I've been living here for 9.5 years, and as much as I love the UK, I don't love the climate, but as much as I love the UK and miss certain things from there, for me, I don't think I would change this part of the world for anything. And so I think it's a real bonus in a way that there's a great property market here, that there are accessible prices, there are opportunities to make good solid investments here as well. But really what stands out to me is the location, is the people, and then combined with anything else, that's really just a bonus, really.
Perfect. James, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. And it's always good. I'm always excited to talk to people with experience in Brazil. How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. We have our site, roxinvestments.com. You can reach me on email at james@roxinvestment.com as well. WhatsApp seems to be used for everything here in Brazil as well, so you can access WhatsApp details online as well. So yeah, and also have a profile, and we'll be putting more properties as well on the platform as well.
Perfect. James, thank you so much for your time. I'm sending the best regards to you, to Florianópolis, and we talk soon.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you ever so much for having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.